I'm with the Degree Programs Office at INSEAD, looking after the EMBA marketing and recruitment activities. Today's session is going to be focused on careers, so it is my pleasure to start off my introduction of our panelists with Larry Medina. Larry is our head of career coaching and education at INSEAD. We are also very privileged to have two of our alumni graduated from two different EMBA programs that we offer with us on our panel today. So Chua graduated from our Tiamba program, which is our Quay INSEAD Executive MBA. That's our double degree EMBA program. Jess is a director at PayPal, a name that we are all very familiar with, providing online payment solutions. Jess is also the president of our Singapore Alumni Association. We've got Olivier, who graduated from our Global Executive MBA program. Olivier is the CEO of Crystal Clear, providing complete and tailored corporate services solutions to the clients. And finally, last but not least, my very good friend and good colleague, Tony Widjaja, who will be moderating today's session. So Tony works alongside with me. We are, as I mentioned, looking after the recruitment and marketing activities for our EMBA programs. Right, so Tony, take it from here.
Thank you very much, Shilla. All right. Now, guys, what I want later is to make this conversational. And if you look at the screen, you can see there is a URL called college.com/movingchair057. You can ask questions by typing in inside the college survey, or you can use the mic. So you just launch your browser on your phone, and you type in college.com/movingchair057. You can type in your name or your nickname and then sign in. And then you can see some of the commonly asked questions I put out already. You can ask your own, or if you like my question, you just click on like and it will go to the top. Okay? So I will start off asking the first few questions, and then I'll try to roll the ball and get questions from the screen or questions that I already have on this list. Right? So, all of you, I'm guessing, are working professionals, and you want a positive change in your career or in your business. Right? You want to acquire the skills that you can use to frame complex business situations, develop your leadership potential, expand your professional and your personal network globally. Right? Because I've got great aspiration, and you want to signal quality to the next investor, to the next employer, to the next business partner. But there are a lot of questions that are, going on. Is this the right school? Is this the right program? Is this the right time? Right? You want to ask questions like what kind of services are available in the career development. Right? You want to ask questions about the alumni network. How effective are they? What kind of activities they have? What kind of alumni are active in the community? You want to ask questions about what do you take away from the program if you want to make a career switch, if you want to move into entrepreneurship. And we'll have a whole bunch of other questions. The objective today is to get insights from the experiences that the alumni have been through, right? The opportunities they have seen, the challenges they have faced, right? The do's and the don'ts, even the regrets, the advice they can give to those who are considering the program. And then if you want to ask about career services, we have the head, ask about statistics, ask about switching sector or whatnot, right? So I'm gonna, without further ado, I'm just gonna start off asking one question for each panelist, and then please feel free to type in yours. The first question I have is for Larry. Larry, there is a saying that goes that you pay for what you get, right? In other words, you pay more, you get more. this is a common question I get. The executive MBA program is 50% more expensive than the full-time MBA program in INSEAD. So people sometimes ask, why can't you, your team, provide the full MBA career services to the executive MBA participant?
Great question, and it is a common question. So let me explain. We do have a full suite of services for all the executive MBAs. Just real briefly, I'm trying not to take up too much time, but there's coaching services. So we have a panel of external coaches, very experienced, that have worked with our TMBAs for years and years. Okay, so you have one-on-one access to work with a career coach. We also have internal career coaches that can be more frequent conversations, ad hoc type of conversations. So coaching we have. We have a bunch of workshops, webinars that we offer to all the executive MBAs. They basically run January through July, right before the electives. It's every topic you can think about. In fact, I think tomorrow we have interviewing for executive roles. Okay, we had networking last week. Anyway, we go through all the main topics that you would be interested in webinars. So we have services. We also do industry events. Now here's the deviation with MBAs that I need to explain. Sometimes executive MBAs will see on-campus recruitment and they say, why not for us? It's not because that we don't want to do that for you. It's simply that's not the way the job market works. Okay? So when they come for MBAs, they're specifically looking for 4 to 7 years work experience. And it works mostly because consulting has an up or out model. So every year they need to hire a lot of senior associates. So they come to campus. Even some of the tech companies, big tech companies, don't come to campus. Okay? They still recruit MBAs, but they don't come to campus. So for executive MBAs, typically, you'll have 15 years work experience, sometimes 10. I've seen up to 30 years work experience. That's not the way the job market works. So when you get about 10, you start to, let's say 10 up to C-suite, right? It's networking, 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 and executive search. Okay? So when we do industry events on campus, we're looking to provide you with information and networking opportunities. So we invest heavily in career services for the TM and GEMBAs, but the structure is different simply because the job market works differently at the mid and senior levels.
All right, thank you very much, Larry. There's a follow-up question, but before that, I'd like to go to Jess first, because I think it's important you talk about networking a lot. And great opportunities are often not publicly advertised, and often we need to network and get referrals to hidden treasures, whether it's a better job, business opportunity, or investments. Now, how effective is the Alumni Association here when it comes to facilitating this kind of networking? Can you give an example of what can possibly be achieved in this community, the alumni community?
I can give a lot of examples, right? Can you?
Okay, just want to make sure.
I actually can give a lot of examples. For myself, basically, because of my network, people reach out to me to ask me to be in the advisory board or to be a director in their startups, okay? With the social media that alumni has, you are anyone who is an alumni that is able to reach out. Like I have seen, oh, I need an agreement, you have a legal template for this, please DM me. And then they will get answers. Or someone would say, I want to meet someone from this company. Can you DM me? And there are things like, people will post, I have a job, like yesterday, there's a director level job, like, if you are interested, contact me. So, the network is really fantastic. So, it depends on what you want to put in, because you can't always be the one asking, right? So, what you give is what you get.
All right, thank you very much. The third question I have, there will be follow-up question for you too, Jess, but before that, I'll go to Olivier. Olivier, you progressed well in Vistra when you were in the program, and you decided to move into entrepreneurship a few years later. There are probably a few prospects who might be thinking in the same career trajectory. Can you provide some advice when you share with us your journey and how INSEAD played a role directly or indirectly in some of the decisions you made from being an employee to entrepreneurship?
Where to start? When I decided to take the EMBA course, a lot of other members and students in my cohort, we had questions as to what do we want to do next, whether we will progress more in our company. I personally thought I wanted to change industries, find another job in a different industry, because I thought I was bored with what I was doing with my job in my role as mid-level manager at Vistra. I thought I would want to move and do something different, discover another sexy industry that looks quite interesting because it's more trendy than what I used to be doing. So I came into the EMBA program thinking about doing this, and I have to admit that I wasn't necessarily very well prepared into using and leveraging on the career development program. I didn't really engage much into it. At the time when I graduated, I regretted that. But 5 years after graduation, so this year is going to be my 5 years alumni reunion, I've actually, reflecting back on the whole program, what I gathered through the program is to allow the transition that I've operated in getting into entrepreneurship, which is interesting because I didn't think about that initially. I didn't have this real confidence, didn't think it was something that was possible because of the riskings involved, and of course the salaries. Starting off from fresh bootstrapping is not something necessarily very easy. But reflecting on it, the program and discussing with the network in the INSEAD, because you will meet a lot of individuals that have been former entrepreneurs that had a stint as an entrepreneur who went back into corporate, people that went corporate that went into entrepreneurship, serial entrepreneurs, investors, VCs, and so on and so forth. That wide array of individuals from very different backgrounds gave me a good idea that actually entrepreneurship is something very possible. So funny enough, instead of changing industries, I'm doing the exact same thing in the same industry, but as my own company owned by myself. So it's almost the opposite of what I was initially looking when I went into the INSEAD program. But the first thing is, it gave me a lot of confidence. I actually started off my career as a corporate lawyer. Didn't really have much confidence in finance, ops, marketing, and so on and so forth. And the program, the INSEAD program, gives you that general knowledge that you'll be able to interact with any service provider, any client, and understand at least surface level knowledge, not to be fooled or being able to talk confidently about any topic. So I believe this is what I gained a lot from the program. Of course, on top of that, the network has been extremely helpful. Starting my business, not really doing any much marketing, I got enough clients coming in, and half of them are insiders from the network, deciding needing some support, and are readily supporting us. The next step in my journey is I'm about to set up a new business right now with another INSEAD alumni who's just graduated. So funny enough, the circle is closed. I will have finally a partner from the network, and I'm quite excited about this because you do have that ability once you talk to an alumni that at least roughly. Okay, I know it sounds a little sectarian
through acquiring working knowledge across all the general administrative functions and building your network through the alumni community and getting clients, getting information through that's great. Ultimately, I think all of you like the first question about what is ROI. This is a people might feel a bit geez, but I guess we will pose this question to Larry, because Larry, you have a more general statistics. By the way, for those who came in late, you can launch your browser on your phone and type in holiday.com/movingchair057 and then type in your question, or you can use the mic and ask, right? But you might want those questions, just click mic, it will go to the top and I'll ask you. Okay, for those who have come late. So Larry, if you could give some insights to, because everyone seems to like the first question, what is the ROI like?
Okay, sure. It's a good question. So I will start off just with what's in the Financial Times. So if you look at the rankings for both the Tienda and the Gembas, I think the last one that came out is a 30% to 60% increase in salary 3 years out. Okay. But I always say that doesn't tell the whole story for or any executive MBA, to be honest with you. Because most executive MBAs don't change jobs right when they graduate, right? It's not like an MBA program. Typically, we see people staying in their jobs through most of the program, and there's a variety of reasons for that. Because you have to negotiate for a lot of time off to get into the program to take the modules. So if you approach a new employer, they're not going to be thrilled usually with you taking 20 weeks off because you're doing the Gembas program or Tienda program. Okay. So we typically see people looking for new jobs around July, knowing that they have a 6-month runway before graduation. But we also see a lot that actually start their job search at graduation and then they get something new maybe 6-9 months afterwards as well. Okay. The other thing about the statistics is you actually have people that become entrepreneurs that make less money than they did when they were going through the program. So I really think you have to take the 5-10-year look at that. I'm not gonna bluff you. I don't have a lot of statistics around that, but I'm just saying that's the analysis. Is when you talk to alumni, you'll usually hear the acceleration that happens after the program. The personas we see are the accelerators, so people who are going to get promoted with their existing company and their existing functional area. It's very common. But again, entrepreneurs is the other one, right? So it could be you start building capital, but your salary could be quite low at the very beginning as well. One thing I love about Gembas Tienda is that each participant is extremely unique. Okay, it's not like MBAs. And so it's a very bespoke conversation that you have with career services. And so I would say if you really want to know ROI, you have to kind of break down your own individual situation, think about what you want to do next. If you're an accelerator, I think you can safely say, you can look at the Financial Times data and say, okay, that's probably a pretty good benchmark. But if you want to do entrepreneurship or you want to make a radical career switch, it could actually be a step back, but it gets you to a better place that you want to be.
I like when you say everyone is unique, every participant is. Talk about uniqueness. They like the second question asking what is INSEAD uniqueness? Because there are a lot of great schools. I'm sure Shilla is able to, Shilla, my colleague, used to work for NUS for more than 14 years. Yeah. So Shilla, maybe I can pose this question to you. You've now worked with INSEAD for almost half a year now. If you can perhaps give some insights to later on our cross touch on alumni and why they think this INSEAD program as opposed to other great programs.
Yeah, well, for one, INSEAD INSEAD is definitely a more global program, because compared to where I come from, I would say that program is pretty much focused on the Asia Pacific region, right? And it is a local university. In comparison, INSEAD has campuses across the 4 continents, right? And the community that we get at INSEAD in terms of the student profile is definitely more global compared to the other schools that I was with.
Maybe ask the alumni, why did you pick? You want to know unique. Why is this so unique? Why us? Why did you pick us to make so many different options?
Well, I wanted to graduate from a brand name university or MBA. I wanted a brand name. That was my bucket list. Okay, it's not for higher pay. It's not for a promotion. Okay, so that was my base is very low, unlike you guys. But I remember I was once sitting here too, right? Where you guys were, and thinking, oh my God, so expensive, right? Like, so what made me choose INSEAD? A few reasons. Number one was that Anthony at that time gave me a few names to talk to. I talked to them on a one-on-one basis. Everyone told me it was transformative. And like Larry says, everyone is unique. So they couldn't really articulate a general pathway, but everyone said they gained from it. So when you're talking about ROI, you have to think about the tangible and the intangible. Like a lot of people, they came for the MBA to get that promotion, to get that C-suite. 6 months into the EMBA, the Tiamba, my friend, who is a CFO in an insurance company, just quit. So the next module, she was, she should go all the way up, right? But the next module I saw her say, Jess, I quit. I am going to run the company. And she did. She is doing it now. So it's the intangibles. So you go in wanting something, but through the program, which is everyone is unique, you come up with something else. Okay? Yeah.
What's your reason for choosing INSEAD? What's so unique about it?
What's unique about it? I did like the diversity pitch that INSEAD had. I was considering other EMBA programs as well at the time. I felt, and it was proven right when I was in the course, that INSEAD doesn't have necessarily the same branding as maybe some other MBAs, which are very focused on finance, on big careers and big CFO and so on and so forth. And you can see it actually from the brochures in general. I don't know if it's changed since 5 years ago, but it felt a little more diverse, and it felt a little more like a school that it was a little more introspective on the students. The other, I would say, competitive advantage I found with INSEAD was, at the time I didn't really know what that meant, was the leadership development program. So I think at the time it was quite unique. I don't know if it's still unique compared to other EMBAs, but it's a program really focused, and I don't think it's offered to the MBAs, but it's really a program to discover oneself and really deep dive in one's blockers and enablers, doing a lot of introspection, which I found very, very powerful during the course. And I don't think necessarily this is something which is offered in every single EMBA program. So that was a pitch, and maybe the third reason, I like the colors and the color scheme and the font, some branding in a way, the green. And finally, maybe I'm biased, but I'm French as well.
French is minority, just to be sure. And Max.
Although I have to say, before actually knowing about INSEAD, I didn't so I did not really know business schools and so on and so forth. So I learned about INSEAD really late. So the branding itself was new to me.
Yeah, thank you. So when you look at the two alumni we have, in fact, if you look at all the alumni we have, many of them have changed careers. Right? Most of them probably have already left their companies by now, right? So a lot of you are looking at career change. So maybe the question will pose to Larry is, how difficult is it really for an EMD student to change career, to progress to a different sector or function?
Yeah, so just a couple dimensions. So typically when you're looking at career change, geography, industry, functional areas, so those are the three dimensions that we talk about. Regardless if you go to executive MBA or not, the more work experience you get, it gets more difficult to change dimensions, okay? It used to be easier to change geography, obviously, with the financial crisis and COVID. Even that's trickier than it used to be. Okay, so think in terms of probabilities. So the more senior you get, you're more likely to change one dimension, sometimes a half dimension, and then a stepping stone into a full change as well. I would say a lot of executive MBAs are not actually looking to change maybe more than one dimension. It's quite common, maybe geography, or they want to change industry. They may be a finance expert and they want to change industry. So those types of moves are very common, right? It's quite doable. I would again point to the INSEAD network that can open up doors, especially at mid and senior levels as well, when changing dimensions. So again, you see a lot of change. Now, let's talk about the other couple areas. One is entrepreneur, so you potentially throw it all out and do something completely new. Obviously, the price with that is building up capital versus maybe a salary, so it depends how flexible you are on salary when you start talking about career changes when you're more senior as well. The other one we haven't talked about that I've seen a lot with Canvas is starting investment funds. So I know that happens a fair amount as well, where again, the TMs will get together, they'll pull capital together and start either VC or PE types of funds as well. So I kind of throw that in the entrepreneur bucket, but it's a slight twist on that.
Thank you very much. There's another question. This is also not it's quite common. Are there any disadvantages compared to a regular MBA program? So in the industry, if you do an executive MBA program and you apply for specific opportunities, are there, compared to a regular program, are there disadvantages? Yeah, could you maybe give some insights?
Yeah, so I would point to a couple of things. The one that I mentioned earlier is obviously MBAs have a strong focus on on-campus recruitment, again, because of the way the job market works, right? So they quit their job at INSEAD, it's a 10 to 12 month MBA program, they come out and they get a job, which is very different than the GEMBA. You would say the advantage for the GEMBA is you're working, so it's not typically most GEMBAs don't lose their salary, so there's no opportunity cost to doing the program usually. I would also say that even though there's obviously a lot of similarities in the content, at the GEMBA it's pitched for senior leaders. You're expecting C-suite, C-1, maybe C-2 types of individuals in the program. So you're going to get a lot more sophisticated conversations in the classrooms itself, and you're networking. Like, I'm sure it's happened that you rarely would see a group of MBAs saying, hey, we're going to pull our capital together and start a VC. But with GEMBAs, we see that on a fairly regular basis. So it's the sophistication of your classmates, the level of experience that makes it a much different program from an MBA program.
That's very true. The classmates are different. I mean, maybe we can check with the alumni. What kind of classmates do you have in your cohort? Are they mostly middle managers? Do they really put together funds to set up something?
I have classmates classmates who did that. So a group of them who are based in Shanghai grouped together to invest in startups. Okay, and in who I know in Yamba, they also clubbed together to invest in angel funding.
Okay, but what kind of classmates did you have in Yamba?
It's extremely diverse, and I think the difference between the MBA, I'm not on the MBA, so I wouldn't know, but from the professors and what being on campus we've been told is there's a much lower level of competition in the Gemba. We're not competing against each other. Actually, we're trying to learn from each other. Whereas apparently in the MBA classes, it's typically divided into three categories: people that want to become consultants at McKinsey, BCG, the third that want to go into investment banking, the third that want to do entrepreneurship. And there is a little more competition in terms of professors typically tell us that they prefer engaging with the, of course I'm biased, but prefer engaging with the Gemma classes because there's a different maturity in terms of what individuals expect from each other, as opposed to trying to be right. And so in the Gemma class, typically the discussions are a little more fruitful and really much more collaborative, from what we heard. And certainly that's maybe my experience. I've never felt there was a level of competition because we're not competing to get the 10 spots at McKinsey or at whichever investment bank this is kind of true typically runs on campus. So the disadvantages, I have to say, I was at an age where I could have probably done the MBA as opposed to the Gemba, and opted for the Gemba for some of the reasons that I already mentioned, opportunity cost. I think it's less of a full-time on-campus type of experience. So if you're looking more getting back in full-time study, being on campus with students every day, you won't get that necessarily with the Gemba because it's more module focused. So I would say this is a different experience, but certainly your cohorts will be different, and the individuals you interact with will be very different. The network will be more powerful, I think, than full-time.
There's a question related to what you're saying. What is the mix of mid-management or managers which is Gemba? The mix in your class. If you look back at your class, what is the mix of middle management or managers? Which is, what is the senior, middle, entrepreneurs?
I would say it's more towards more senior, accomplished individuals. I mean, the Gemba is on dossier. You admit it because you need to showcase a number of achievements in your job and a high degree of self-awareness in terms of your successes and failures. I mean, I'm an example of I was between management and management when I joined the Gemba. It's very diverse. We would have very few junior managers. It's typically individuals that have managed individual, or for example, very high-performing sales, sole contributors, or sometimes entrepreneurs, or sometimes senior individuals that want to get to CEO positions or managing director positions. They're very, very diverse. We had a doctor as well in our cohort. I don't think this would be common in an MBA class. We had an ex-soldier, an ex-captain in the Australian Army that joined and wanted also to get into a different. So I would say yes. Maybe one of the disadvantages is your networking opportunities within the cohort will be fewer because you don't see each other as often as a full-time MBA. But it's a lot more intense because when you are together for 4 or 5 days and you've got individuals traveling from everywhere, well, I think what is it, the mix? Maybe not during the COVID period, but it was what, around 50%?
50% will be traveling in for the modules. Gemba may be more than 50% traveling into the modules.
So you get a more intense, more compressed way of networking.
Yeah. Great. There is one question where people say, I like that question. I don't know, is there any relationship between the industry I want to be in and the business school I choose? Okay, did you Okay, I guess the question is, if I'm in this industry, is there a specific business school that is better for me? I guess that's how I read it. Or if I want to move into finance or into tech, is there a specific business school that I should be targeting? I guess that's how the question reads. Does INSEAD favor a specific industry? The answer is no. I can answer the second one. Or do specific industries prefer INSEAD? I guess the first question probably to the alumni. If you look at it and say, oh, I'm, do you think I'm in the industry, so INSEAD is a better school for me? And the last question, maybe Larry might be able to answer. Do you think specific industries prefer INSEAD? Maybe for the MBA, consulting, but how about the executive MBA?
Let me go on this one.
Maybe you can answer that.
So I'd say at the MBA, definitely consulting, management consulting. Our MBAs, 50 to 60% will end up in consulting, along with McKinsey, Bain, BCG, so MBBs. At the executive MBA, no. Okay, so INSEAD I would call a generalist MBA and executive MBA program. I guess if you're wanting to do finance, maybe Wharton, right? And if you were doing tech, maybe Stanford. But most of the executive MBA, I think if you look at all the top ones, they're probably more generalist types of programs to begin with. So I think you have to be really super focused before you would say INSEAD isn't the right fit for you. I think from the student background, everything that we've said already is extremely diverse. So there'll be classmates in a wide variety of industries. Just one example, I remember one Genda who the day job was sales for telecommunications, but the passion was starting a wine startup, so a wine distribution company as well. And, so that's the classic sort of diversity that you would see from industrial interests.
Thank you. All right. The next question on that list, I'm trying to answer as best I can on this list, is I met two MBA from INSEAD last week. One is a graduate and one is still undergoing. Okay, they are seeking my advice setting up a fintech company. Both opinionated that the course is transformative, right? But I couldn't exactly say why. Okay, it's quite disturbing that it cannot be articulated. Well, this is very specific. Any comments?
I can answer.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel for the person. I was like that too, right? As I said. So they can't tell you why because it's all intangible. And if they are someone who are not introspective enough to always think about what are the intangible that has changed, they can't tell you. So there are a few people who are like that, right? And you just have to ask them, right, before INSEAD and after INSEAD, what exactly has changed for you, right? In terms of work, in terms of your attitude to work, attitude to family, just be very specific. You have to guide them. Okay?
Yeah, we have a network. I think everyone can pretty much agree after INSEAD having a network of friends will change. Not only you become more global, but you cannot identify a single dominant culture in your new friendship circle. Yes.
Because that question is for me.
Yeah.
So, but isn't the EMBA or even the MBA will teach you how to articulate well? So, and why is it not coming from the students themselves? If I thought it was quite basic.
The thing is, right, I give you an example. Once you finish your EMBA or halfway through, I could see that half my class became more relaxed at work. Okay? And going before you go into an EMBA, you've got to ask your boss for, I don't know whether it's still 68 days off, right? You already, you know that your bonus is short for the entire year because you're out half the time, right? And everyone is so up there with work, from trying to do very well, right? But all your friends are a mirror. You look at them, and somehow by the third or fourth module, everyone, the approach to work, I could see that everyone was very much more relaxed. I'm not talking about the modules, okay? Modules are hard, but I'm talking about their attitude to work. So when they can't articulate, like all of us have our pros and cons. Whether you graduate from INSEAD or you don't graduate from INSEAD, it doesn't mean that because you go through the school, you're excellent for everything. You will never be. You will always be bad at a few things. Okay? But if you want a one-on-one with me, for me to articulate exactly what has changed, for me, I definitely can tell you.
Thank you. There's another question about how to compare a short-term course, like a three-month program, because we have executive education, which has short courses, you can do it for a few weeks or a couple of months, 3 months, compared to a full-fledged executive MBA program, which is 1.5 years. Why didn't you think about the short courses, which were less expensive, would take up less of your time, less effort, and less disruption to your family, to your work, to your personal life? How do you compare between the 3-month INSEAD course versus the executive? Why did you do the 3-month one, the short course? Maybe you want to know maybe because you obviously could have done that.
It's simple, I wasn't aware of the 3 months course. No, I mean, even if I had been aware, I wanted something that was, indeed, maybe I will add something on the transformative a bit as well. The reason for which I wanted to do an lengthy program was to have, part of me wanted to go back to school as well, right? Not just for a short period, as a short break, but to have it as a drawn experience. And the program is a year and a half. We travel, we do some modules in other countries. There's a very nice Fontainebleau experience, and all of that, all things considered, even if I had to go back even if it were cheaper and I would get the exact same outcome, I still want the experience of a lengthy program to soak it in a little, in a softer moment. To add a little bit, and I think Jess touched a bit on this topic in terms of the transformative experience. I think when you get into the MBA, you network with a number of really highly successful individuals, people you would look up to, and when you would network with them without knowing them, you're like, oh, hold on, I feel insecure talking to them, and so on and so forth. And gradually going through the program, we discovered that everybody has some insecurities, it's not perfect on every single account. Everybody has questions, even leaders at the top have challenges, don't really know. The program allows oneself to discover oneself, but also to feel a little more compelled to share and to show vulnerabilities to other cohort members. And I think this can be quite transformative, because when you go to your workplace, you'll feel more confident, because everybody has challenges, everybody has issues, even the most highly performative individual has challenges and insecurities. And I think this, for me, was quite enlightening, because then you tend to open up a little more and share a little more, whether it's on the working space, at home, or with your cohort members. So that I think, in a way, was transformative for me.
Thank you very much. All right, maybe the next question is for Jess. This is how big is the TMT sector in the Alumni Association, the alumni community in Houston? How big is the TMT, technology, media, and telecom sector within the alumni community?
We don't actually count people from which sector. What I can tell you is that we have TMT activities. Over last year, we had over 55 activities over a span of 12 months. Just last week, just to give you an example, we on Thursday evening, we had a TMT talk. On Friday afternoon, there was a lunch in Sentosa, and then on Friday evening, there was a mentor and mentee dinner. And I saw this guy who is, running the TMT person. He attended 3 of these, right? And so it's tonight. There is a healthcare dinner for 20 people. So there are a lot of activities. It doesn't matter if you are now TMT wanting to go to healthcare. Just join the dinner, right? So yeah, it's that open, all of us. Yeah. We won't say, hey, you're not from healthcare, you can't come for the healthcare dinner. Anyone can come.
What is the size of the alumni in Singapore?
We have nearly 4,000 people, alumni based in Singapore.
Oh, okay, that's significant. All right, the next question is about dropouts. Oh, okay, dropouts and dropout rate after admitted to INSEAD. How many of your classmates drop out? They didn't graduate. Can you remember?
So dropouts or
Dropout.
didn't? I think one.
One who didn't graduate?
Didn't drop out. He decided enough.
Enough. Okay, this is a lot too much. Okay, enough is enough.
For various reasons, but
Yeah.
statistically it's not.
It's not common. It's not common because you put in so much effort to getting accepted, and you pay a down payment of what 20% to get it rolling, and then you drop out halfway. I guess because of health reasons you can defer, or maybe I don't know, you get promoted, you just don't have the bandwidth, the time. Possible, right?
I think I correct what I said. None of them dropped out on their own accord. Okay.
Most of you should graduate on time. Yeah. So are there regular alumni networking events? I guess that's already been answered. Okay. What percentage of EMB students are sponsored by their companies, and what percentage don't? Larry, can you answer this one? How many percent?
It's been decreasing year over year. That's sort of a trend. Sorry, last time I'm thinking was 2018. It was about 30%.
Sponsored or self-funding?
Sponsored, but not full sponsored. So you do see some companies that will give 50% or sometimes even less than that. So, but it is decreasing. So the global trend is companies are less likely to sponsor executive MBAs globally.
Yeah. So if you're more than 50% sponsored, you're not eligible for scholarship, right? Yeah. And if you're 50% sponsored or more, you're not eligible for certain of the career services.
Well, you can do the coaching and you can attend the workshops.
So why do you think the trend is going down? Because they don't see the value. They don't see the return on investment.
I think it's okay. The reason it's going down is because it's quite frequent for a sponsored executive MBA to not return to their company. So there could be a vesting period, but even so, they may break bond and leave. So I think a lot of companies look at it and they say, this isn't really worth it because there's a good chance that the person's probably going to leave at the end of the program anyway.
Related to that, I mean, you go through a whole thing of applications and this is what I want to do, this is what I want, kind of things. But generally, do students stick to that plan? Have you seen that, or they kind of change? And looking like 5 years, 10 years ahead, how do you see the MBA? Like, Olivier has last 5 years, he might want to change a career in 5 more years and go into something else. So how do you gauge that when students come into the course, or how do you coach them? Do you mold them? Do you change them? Do you thrust them into it?
No, but I think it's the exposure, right? And so you come in with a preconceived notion of maybe what you want to do in the future, and then you bump into classmates that are doing something else that sounds really intriguing, and it leads you to explore a new path, which is really quite common. So again, I think it's that diversity, it's the mixing of ideas that is one of the biggest values of the program. Certainly there are people, let's say I'm in technology and I'm in the marketing function, and they will continue on that path, but they're looking to move up maybe to chief marketing officer or something like that. But a huge percent completely change what they want to do because of their classmates, the ideas that they get in the class, and they come up with new things that interest them.
Yeah, I just have a tag-on question to the bid management. I mean, I was the one who typed it. So we see, like, just from all the conversations, we see directors or VPs moving to C-level executives. But then, I mean, that's how, like, most of the dialogues have been around, but it might be someone from mid-management who want to move to, like, maybe a senior manager who wants to move to be a director. So how does that fall into, like, this program?
How does the program help?
Yeah, how does the program help for someone to move from that to that, rather than,
Manager to senior manager.
correct, more than from, like, directors or VPs to C-level executives?
How does the program help someone to senior manager?
I mean, the program made me more confident. Okay, so coming into the INSEAD program, it was so to me, right, as being diverse, but I was already, I had a very diverse team already, of course Asia Pacific only, and then I felt that I was already very confident. I didn't know how much more confident I would be. So during the modules, they teach through case studies, right? And during these case studies, I realized that, they will give you a problem and then you as management solve it, right? So I realized that I could solve it using my common sense, okay? And that made me very much more confident at work. So if my VPs tell me they have this problem that is not really my area of work, I was now brave enough to add my 2 cents, because it was proven to, I proved to myself that, whatever solutions I gave through the case studies made sense, okay? And with that, right, one of the appraisal was just brings a business element to whatever problem the sales leader has. And with that, you get the confidence, and then you get promotion. That's my part. I was a manager coming into the program, and 2 years after, I made a senior director. Of course, in PayPal, I'm a director. So, I mean, it comes up and down, different roles, different departments. Yeah.
How the program helps to enhance from manager to senior manager.
Yeah, I think Jess summarized it quite well. It's the ability to contextualize a lot of the discussion that you have with other subject matter experts within the bigger firm. I think on top of that, the program is structured in a way where you do have not only 2 implementation essays and final case study. Individuals that come from corporates where you sponsor them, you've got a very clear plan within your company to gravitate or vie for a different position. You might want to structure your implementation essays and your final case study within your firm and discuss it with your manager, whoever you're working with, saying, well, I do want to do an analysis and create value by using what I learned in school and doing a study in that essay or even in the final case study. So the final case study can be even, for example, a project or a startup, or it can be anything. It can be just a general study. I have to admit, it's almost towards the end that I had to really find something to do. I didn't have a partner. And the funny thing is, my final case study ends up being now the venture I'm going to launch with that. Alumni, and at the time he wasn't at INSEAD, but we did together still. And it's about investment vehicles, poolings and so forth. But I'm happy to hear from Larry that a lot of Gambas are looking into these type of vehicles. But anyway, I digress. To come back to the program itself, indeed, you've got these implementation essays, and you're encouraged as much as possible to take what you learn from the class and try to contextualize it within your firm and reaching out to your manager, to your colleagues, get data, do an analysis, and even maybe work on a project internally. So while I was entering the program, for example, one of my implementation essays was to try to move within the firm from service-oriented culture to more relationship-oriented culture in the service industry, trying to figure out how, instead of looking at the service offer, trying to engage with relationship managers to the one of my implementation essays was around that. The second one was about actually digitizing, and it was 5 years ago, and bringing in, for example, digital signatures, a specific subject within the firm, and so we are co-opting different individuals, showcasing that had an interest in that topic, helped within the firm build up my own profile, and work on some topics that I found quite interesting within the firm, which was not really part of my job scope initially.
I guess in short, it is building up confidence through all these skill sets. Really. Yeah.
Tony, I think we are almost past one last question. Yeah, we can do maybe one
Okay,
last
questions
question.
or the last one about diversity? Yeah. Okay, so it says that given that INSEAD course is so diverse, like INSEAD is pride on the diversity, right? That's a source of learning. People from different parts of the world, different sector, different nationality, culture, geography, right? So wouldn't it be less beneficial for someone who's already very diverse in skill sets? So someone who's already been exposed to different skill sets, different functions. Basically, the question is, whereas they get benefit from INSEAD's diversity? I think that's the question. Maybe alumni could. Someone said I've been already exposed to different functions, different skill sets.
I mean, I told you, right? I thought that I was very diverse already, right? From leading an Asian team. However, coming into INSEAD, you meet, the Palestinians, the Iranians, the Russians, people that I didn't get to meet in my role in an APAC role. So, especially the Europeans, right? And therefore, like I said, they are, like everyone said, right? They are like, your folks are like a mirror. You look at what they do, you learn from them, and I would say I gained a lot from the Europeans, because I worked, before INSEAD, I worked very closely with APAC folks and US folks, not so much with Europeans. And in INSEAD, I learned so much, and I can share with you, on a one-on-one basis. And right now, I'm actually covering Europe.
Olivier, you're already a very well-exposed person before you came to INSEAD. Different nationality, different geography. So you just get that lot of diversity.
That's right. I started my career actually in Luxembourg, and then moved to Singapore. I grew up in Malaysia, so I had some level of exposure. But I think if we're talking here about skill sets, I consider myself as just being a lawyer prior to that, but I discovered that I had other skills that I really had. But I think you can always add more skills, and I think this program might not be for everyone. I mean, it might not be. I don't think anybody's trying to do any hard stuff here. I think it's more again, to conclude on what we were talking about earlier. A big part of the value is indeed intangible, and it's about the introspective nature, and it's coming out as more. And it will sound cheesy to say that, but a more complete person, more relaxed, more level-headed individual. Maybe not everybody comes out this way, probably not. But statistically, I think it's probably a generalization which carries some truth. So in terms of, wouldn't it be less beneficial for someone maybe it wouldn't, but maybe it would. Again, what's the motto at INSEAD when we ask question? It depends, the answer. So, which I really like, by the way. When we come out of INSEAD, it's not that we have an answer for everything, we just respond, it depends. Give more information and then we'll figure it out. So, yeah, I guess, again, it depends. I think Harry, you summarized it really well, because every candidate, and maybe less in the MBA program where everybody has a very set mindset. It would be interesting to remember exactly the statistics in my cohort, but I think almost during the 18 months of the program, I think more than 30% of the individuals in the program have changed jobs during that period. Discovering something else, another opportunity, moving on. So not even waiting for graduation, just doing that while they're in the program because of new opportunities, new options. So just that statistics shows that individuals coming thinking that they would stay on, and within already a year discover that they are able to do something else. So sorry, I'm not really answering the question, but. I don't think there's a right answer to really to this. It's very.
I'll take that. Let me just add this. The word diversity, which is the source of our learning, has got multiple dimensions. Because I remember I was promoting the INSEAD program to one of the middle managers in Google, and I was saying that we have people from 85 nationality with no single dominant culture. And the Googler says, well, in my office, we have more than that, right? If you have been to Google office, you understand this. I also promoted INSEAD to also one of the middle managers in the UN, who used to work for the UN, United Nations. And that's probably as diverse as it gets. But then I come from a different angle. I say, okay, but everyone is a Googler from the tech side. We have people from non-for-profit, people from the ministry, people from cardiac surgery, people from that's called sector diversity, which Googlers don't have. And if you go into the United Nations, if you go to a place where there is sector diversity, then you may not have the national or ethnic, cultural diversity. INSEAD has diversity in all the dimensions. We have cultural diversity, everyone is a minority in INSEAD, everyone speaks with a different accent and we live in multiple countries and speak more than 2 or 3 languages. Right? It's hard to find someone in INSEAD who only speaks one language. It's extremely hard, right? And only live in one country. So I think if you think of diversity as a place where we can eliminate groupthink in order to innovate on different business models, I think it's just a great place. But again, how do you benefit from it? It depends how you want to leverage that, right? So I know there's a question at the very back and we are running out of time. Would you like to ask?
My question is, if you can hear me, my question is, does this campus program make sense for existing entrepreneurs? And the second part to the question is, entrepreneurs have a full 24/7 schedule. How can somebody complete the course?
Okay, does it make sense for someone who's already an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And number 2, how can an entrepreneur be managing the time because they're already working around the clock? How can they have the time to go to the
Because sales, marketing, product.
Do you have conflicts for entrepreneurs who are working around the clock?
I'm not working around the clock.
Okay. So, maybe the first question is, how do you manage time? Everyone is busy, everyone is pre-COVID traveling around trying to close deals. How do you manage your time, your family, your work, your school? How do you make sacrifices? How do you prioritize? What happens if you miss a module? What happens if you cannot complete your project? Have you had challenges like that? Or classmates who didn't show up for one of the modules? What happened?
Yeah, I think the school allows a certain level of understanding and flexibility when it comes to, but you can't meet that only a certain number of modules. You can't I mean, which is understandable because it's a commitment, and the school is looking for individuals that are committed. I think to answer your question, and I'll try to answer that. It depends again on where you are in your journey as an entrepreneur. I guess it's if you're looking for a specific outcome or something is missing. But if you're successful and everything is going quite well in your growth stage, maybe there's no reason at this stage to do the program. But if you do see maybe another stage in your entrepreneurship journey where you need to get to another level and you see certain barriers, whether it's in terms of mindset, in terms of skill set or network, maybe there's a good case to be made. So I think, again, it will depend on everybody's situation. In terms of managing the time, I think we've heard that discussion several times, the Dean keeps repeating, there's a number of jokes around this topic. But yes, it's a serious commitment, right? So I think if you do indeed decide to take the program, don't start thinking about, all right, this module in June, I might not be able to make it because it's a very big fair and I need to attend. If you start with the mindset, it's probably best not at this stage to do that. Of course, if you do miss one module, there's ways to catch it up. I think the school tries to, as much as possible, to accommodate. Maybe now with dialing, which is a lot more common, it's easier. In fact, when we did it, it was a little harder. You needed to come in and try to catch up. The program is structured in a way where you've got exams at a number of different modules as well, right? So it's not all the exams at the end. You finish a module, after 2-3 modules you get exams. And it can be stressful to start doing exams again, not a very fun experience. Yeah, so you do need to make sure that you do them at time, because catching up and doing in French rattrapage, nature, is always a tricky thing to organize, particularly for the school. So yes, commitment is quite important in that sense.
Can I add to that? Yeah.
Time management, making sure that you hand out on time, knowing that for every module you go in, within the 7th day or the 8th day, there's an exam. Okay? So how do you manage your time? The second is there's a Center of Entrepreneurship in INSEAD, and Entrepreneur in Residence. What they do and we do is that every year there's a competition for startups, and these startups do get funded. We are starting an Angels Club, and this Angels Club will also look at all the winners of the IBC program competition, and potentially the whole alumni can invest. So it's a plus.
Sorry, if I could add also, I just wanted to finish on that topic, and I remembered about it. One of the KMCs, the key management challenges, which I did at the time, it was not that relevant for me, was called Realizing Entrepreneurship Potential. I think it's Randall Carlock, yeah. Very interesting, which is all about how do you manage your time, how do you build a successful business. It's not about finding an idea or starting a business, but more about self-management and the challenges and the resilience needed for entrepreneurs, because this is a typical challenge. And for example, school puts a lot of emphasis in trying to tackle not necessarily the hard skill sets, but more the mindsets and the things that you can't learn necessarily like finance or marketing. So that KMC, again, I thought it was not that relevant for me when I took it, but for individuals that run family businesses or run are already entrepreneurs for a number of years, that can be quite useful. So yeah, I forgot about that, and I found that quite. I think Lady has a question.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the whole evening of sharing. We hear a lot of positive, especially on the internship benefits that the Gemma program can bring. I'm interested in hearing what kind of words of caution you would potentially have for people who are seriously considering participating in this program. And second, maybe what are the things that you wish Gemma would have done better for you when you were doing this?
What advice and where are the gaps? If you could turn back the clock, what part of that experience would you want to change? Yes.
I'll start since I'm just to conclude. I wish I had come in a little more prepared, to be honest. As I typically do with studies and everything, I kind of wing it, go in, read the materials at the last minute. The day before, I'm like, oh my god, there's so much to read. And I'll still read them. And coming with the more more of a plan. I think you mentioned about having a plan and coming in and having a clear. I didn't really have much. I think for me it was I want to change and I don't really know. I'm going to go in there. It's going to be fun. I'm going to learn new things and I love learning new things. I think I wish I had been a little more. At least 1 to 2 years when I graduated. At the time I graduated, I felt I should have come in with much more of a plan and come in and networking with individuals instead of just trying to make friends and making friends and just chatting about anything. Coming with a more angled approach. And I know some individuals in my cohort had that from day one. They had a target, they wanted to build a network in a very specific industry and achieve that. And I felt that I did not do that and I graduated thinking I missed the opportunity. But when I look backwards, I don't actually at the end of the day it didn't really matter because whatever I built there is part of my journey and now I am where I am thanks to that. I think when I graduated I thought I should have done that differently, but now when I look back I'm thinking actually it doesn't really matter, maybe I would have been more prepared, it would have led me somewhere else, maybe I would have still been in corporate in another industry, who knows. Then again, whatever value I got from the program, I still value it. As much as I paid for it and time I spent for it, I would do it again. But still, it's probably better to prepare. Whatever I did. So yes, prepare.
And the part 2 of the question, what did you wish INSEAD would have done better with Gemba?
Yeah. What could we have done better to make that experience more positive?
Hard to say. I mean, there's obviously a number of things that could be better, but I don't really have any specific. Food was good, you know. You'll get to know what INSEAD stands for, by the way. It's if you join. Actually, what could have been done better? I think, I don't know if it's me or if it wasn't communicated clearly to me, or at least I didn't get the message quite right. To understand exactly how you would file a project and the level of preparation beyond the materials, like that mindset shift of getting into a program to leverage as much out of it. I think I felt that it wasn't, well, at least I didn't hear it sufficiently well prior to joining in. And that's why I didn't come prepared. When I said I didn't come prepared, it's not I didn't read the materials. It's that mindset of coming in and having a very clear objective. For me, it was like, I'll discover and hopefully something will come out of it, which worked out well in the end. So, yeah. So that answers your question.
Just any advice?
What was the first question?
Any advice to those who are applying right now? And
First one was word of cautions for people who are applying, and then second is any complaints about
any complaints about INSEAD?
Okay, word of caution. I've seen people change 180 degrees. So going in, they expected like career path, career growth. I've seen people becoming entrepreneurs, earning less, throwing away their corporate career, buying a boat and decided to sail around the world and still sailing. Okay, so it can happen. It can happen to you. Okay, so that is something very transformative, and it's that entire journey that you realize that, hey, maybe corporate life is not for me, or maybe corporate life is for me. For example, I tried entrepreneurship for a little while, and then decided, hey, corporate life is better, and so people are willing to take risk, right, and willing to try. The gaps, I would say, are you treating, a lot of people come, especially the Yambas and the Tiambas, treat this as something for them to learn and grow, as well as, because you are based in Singapore, I hope since you are here, you are mainly coming to Singapore. The alumni in Singapore is one of the 6th largest. Okay, so you always have a very strong alumni community, a lot of events. So that's one thing you you can take away if you get in and if you pass and if you're an alumni. That's when we talk about gaps, maybe we are thinking that, and I was someone like that also. I thought of the EMBA as a product. Like I paid for this product. Okay, this product must give me all these benefits, right? However, that may not be the right way of thinking. For example, I was like, hey, I'm an alumni of Kiamba, then obviously I should talk better, I should present better, because this is an image, right, of INSEAD. It's something that, after a while, I realized that it is more to looking at how the people, your folks around you are doing and how you can mirror them and learn from them. Of course, you can learn what not to do too. Okay? Yeah. So for me, the moment I didn't see it as a product, I realized that I could work a lot on myself and learn, forever learning, lifelong learning. Hope that answers.
Is the course an evening course or weekend?
It's not an evening course. It's a full day course. It's modular. Yeah. Is there any final question? If not, we have prepared some discussion. I'll hand over to you, Shilla.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for joining us this evening and thank you for the great questions. And of course, I'd like to thank our alumni, for spending the evening here after the busy schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going to be out there. If you have some time and you still